What I'm about to share with you, my students call absolute gold. It's the reason they're able to make progress starting to speak from day one of studying with me. This is one of my priorities when teaching Portuguese. As a non-native speaker myself, I totally get how scary it is to start speaking. But this fear is the number one thing keeping you stuck inside an expat bubble where you're unable to experience authentic Portuguese culture. And I know that's not why you moved here. So many of you spend hours drilling grammar rules in classrooms and in online courses, but you don't get to a place where you have enough confidence to strike up a conversation in real life. Does that sound like you? Give me a yes in the comments if so. So the only way to get around this is to start as quickly as possible and get it over with. Kind of like jumping in very cold water. It's a real shock to the system at first, but you will be so glad you did it because you feel so much better afterwards. The correct way to do it is to start small and start practical. Learn phrases that are going to be the most useful for your day-to-day life. This way you're going to be challenging yourself, but also treating it like a little bit of a game and not expecting too much from yourself too soon. So today I'm going to give you something utterly awesome and exclusive. Until now, only my students inside the Portuguese Pro program for beginners had access to this. It's my 30-day Practical Portuguese challenge. So how does it work? It's super simple. We have 30 practical phrases. You're going to learn and use one every single day. And then after 1 month, you will have built up some serious confidence in your speaking skills. If you want to take on this challenge with me, head to the description where you can download the PDF with all of the phrases and accompanying audio so that you can practice these until they are perfect. And if you're worried that you're not going to know what to say when somebody replies back to you, that's what number 30 is for. So stay tuned if you're going to need help with that. Are you ready to dive into my 30 must-have practical phrases for day-to-day life in Portugal? Let's go. So in the first phrase, we're going to take it nice and easy and we're just going to order a drink. Let's make it a coffee. Queria café, se faz favor. Queria café, se faz favor. Now, you can swap out café for whatever it is that you want to drink, but just make sure that you're getting the gender correct. So for example, I could ask for uma cerveja. But because cerveja is feminine, I would just need to change the to uma. Now, this next phrase is really cute because it's what you're going to say when somebody says thank you to you. You're going to say thank you. See you soon. So this is obrigado, eu. Até logo. Now, what is the eu at the end of this obrigado? It means me. So it's basically saying, no, I'm the one who is obliged. So this is something really nice to say in a shop exchange, for example, and they say thank you. You can say, no, thank you. Obrigado, eu. Don't forget, obrigado is also going to change depending on your own gender. So if you are a woman, you can swap it out for obrigada. In number 3, we are going to politely ask somebody to let us get past. For this, we will say, com licença, com licença. Now, people often ask me, what's the difference between com licença and desculpe? Desculpe also means kind of like, excuse me. So the way I always say it is that com licença is asking for permission. So like, do I have your permission to move past you? And desculpe is kind of more asking for forgiveness, saying, I'm sorry. Okay, so that's the main difference between those two. Number 4, very important. Where is the bathroom? Onde fica a casa de banho? Onde fica a casa de banho? That's one thing none of us can live without. A super useful one, particularly if you are in a smaller shop in Portugal, you need to ask, do they accept card? So here's your phrase. Aceita cartão? Aceita cartão? Make sure you're getting that nice nasal ow sound there. You can check out this video if you need some help with the nasal sound, or you can check out my pronunciation guide, which you can download for free in the description, where we cover 7 of the trickiest sounds in Portuguese. It's going to do wonders for your pronunciation if you need some help. So what about if you have started visiting somewhere regularly and you want to say thank you, see you next time? You'll say obrigado, até a próxima. Obrigado, até a próxima. Now, I want you to look out for the word próxima there. Even though we have an X in that word, we don't want to have próxima. This is what lots of people want to say. That X is actually going to be a straightforward S in that word. Próxima. What about if you want to ask how much something is? Quanto custa? Quanto custa? I want you to look out for that O on the end of quanto. It should be a nice U sound, and that S isn't going to be a S, it's a sh sound. Custa. Getting your shushes in the right place is going to be one of the things that's going to make you sound really Portuguese. So the next few are all restaurant related. What about if you want to ask the waiter to bring you the menu? Podia trazer-me o menu, se faz favor? Podia trazer-me o menu, se faz favor? Now, I want you to look out for the m tacked onto the end of trazer there. Everybody wants to say me, but we want to make sure we have a really nice closed E at the end of it. M. Next up, of course, you need to ask for the bill. A conta, se faz favor. A conta, se faz favor. Now, look out for how I'm pronouncing that A in front of conta. It means the, and whenever an A or an O is used to mean the, we have to close down the vowel. We're not saying a, we're saying a. It's the same A that we use in the word in English, away. A conta. What about if you want to ask someone for the time? I know we all have the time on our phone these days, but it can actually be a really nice excuse for striking up a conversation with someone. So let's have it. Desculpe, tem horas? Desculpe, tem horas? Make sure that you're making that tem nice and nasal, and the trick I usually give people to make sure we're avoiding any kind of M sound at the end of tem is to just make sure that your lips don't meet. If they don't meet, they can't make the M, so leave it hanging. Tem. Number 12 is one of my favorites and something that you should be using all the time to improve your vocabulary. Como se diz em português? Como se diz em português? How do I say it in Portuguese? This is a great way to make sure that you're not just copying out and using English. You can point to something and ask for the Portuguese word, and the person will tell you, and you'll have learned something new. Wait, hang on, I've messed up the numbers. I missed out one, number 11, okay? So this is phrase 11. Gostei imenso. Gostei imenso. This means I really enjoyed it. So this is something that you could say, for example, when you've just enjoyed a meal and you want to tell the waiter that you really, really liked it. Watch out for that O in gostei. It needs to be more of an U sound. So look out for that. So what about when we are out shopping? A really useful one for the supermarket, saying that you don't need a bag, because we're all very conscious of the environment these days. Não preciso de saco. Obrigado. Não preciso de saco. Obrigado. Now, number 14, we can adapt to be about anything that you are looking for, any item that you're trying to find in the shop. We're just going to ask, do you have it? And there's that tricky word again, tem. So if I'm looking for milk, for example, I would say, tem leite? Tem leite? And of course, you can swap it out for anything that you're looking for. Number 15, asking what time the shop closes. A que horas fecha a loja? A que horas fecha a loja? What about if you need to make a dreaded phone call and ring up to make a reservation for a restaurant? You would say, posso reservar uma mesa para 2 pessoas. Posso reservar uma mesa para 2 pessoas. Now, you can swap out duas, which is the word for two in the feminine because pessoas is feminine. You can swap it out for however big your party is, 4, 5, 6, for example. You can check out this video over here on numbers if you need a little bit of help with that. I also want you to be really careful with the first R in reservar. That needs to be either a h or a r, depending on which one you are going with for R's that come at the beginning of a word. So make sure you're exaggerating it so that it sounds really good. One for the taxi driver. Maybe you've reached the spot where you actually want to be dropped off. Here's what you can say. Podia deixar-me aqui mesmo? Podia deixar-me aqui mesmo? Now, just like with trazer-me, which we covered earlier, I want you to keep that E nice and closed in deixar-me. Now, we've also got a different X sound. Earlier on we had próxima, that sounded like a S, but in deixar, that X is going to sound like a sh. So remember that one. What if you need some general help? Desculpe, podia ajudar-me? Desculpe, podia ajudar-me? This is going to work in any situation where you need a bit of help or assistance from someone who works there. Another fantastic one for avoiding resorting to English and boosting your vocabulary, asking what something is. O que é isto? O que é isto? Now, this is one that my students get in a real panic over because those first syllables, u, que, é, they can be quite difficult to master and say one after the other. So this is one I really recommend that you practice and use as much as possible. Number 20 has been a great way for my students to actually start to engage in conversation with people whilst also being a great citizen. It's offering somebody your seat. You can say, o senhor or a senhora quer sentar-se aqui. O senhor or a senhora quer sentar-se aqui. Another great one for day-to-day life that you will use all the time, so make sure it just trips off the tongue when you want to say to someone, don't worry about it. Não faz mal. Não faz mal. It literally means you don't do any harm. What about if you've met someone new and you want to say that it was nice to meet you? This is a polite version. Prazer em conhecê-lo. Or if it's a woman, prazer em conhecê-la. Now, if you want to be gender neutral, you can of course just say the word prazer, meaning pleasure to meet you. One of my favorite expressions that I have often used in my videos on how to sound more natural in Portuguese. If we want to exclaim that something is cool, we will say que giro. Que giro. Again, with any exclamation or reaction, we're going to use the word que, but make sure it doesn't turn into a que like so many people want to do. It needs to be a closed E, que. What about if you want to ask your neighbour how they are today? Como está hoje? Como está hoje? Now, people often get the stress in the wrong place with the word está. You can see that there's an accent on that A. That means I need to put the stress there. I go over this in this video over here on my best pronunciation hack, where the stress is supposed to go within a word. You can also hear that that E is almost dropped off, almost silent. So if you want to sound really Portuguese, you can minimize that E. It's going to sound more like this, está. I do also have a whole video on 30 small talk phrases, so once you get confident with these practical phrases, you can check out this video to elevate your conversation even more. A very important one if we are out at the bar and we want the wine list. Tem uma lista de vinhos? tem uma lista de vinhos. So remember, we're keeping that tem nice and nasal, not closing our mouth, and we're making that sh sound in the middle of lista. Instead of lista, lista. That's how we're going to sound really Portuguese. A few more shop-related ones. Another one, if you are looking for a particular item, you could say, podia dizer-me onde está o arroz? For example, if you were looking for rice, but you can swap that out for anything. A nice one if you want the shopkeeper or the taxi driver to keep the change. You can say, pode ficar com o troco. Pode ficar com o troco. Now, it's really difficult to say the word com, which ends in a nasal sound, and follow it with another vowel. We tend to want to say como, and we get that M back in there. We want to make sure we don't do that. So again, keep the mouth open, com, add a little space, and then move on to o troco. What if you're a little bit lost and you need to know where the nearest metro station is? Onde fica a estação de metro mais próxima? Onde fica a estação de metro mais próxima? Remember, we've got próxima in there again, so we know now that that is a S sound. Almost there, number 29. Maybe you are on the bus or in some other situation and you want to open the window and you need to ask. You would say, posso abrir a janela? Posso abrir a janela? And last but not least, number 30, which you might want to learn and then use it whenever you need it. Because sometimes people are going to reply to you in Portuguese and you're not going to be able to keep up because we're just getting started here. So you can always smile and say, estou a aprender português. Estou a aprender português. This means I am learning Portuguese. So hopefully they will help you out a little bit more. So there you have it, all 30 phrases. I highly recommend you downloading the accompanying PDF to this because it's going to give you a little checklist. You can check off when you have learnt the phrase and when you have used it. And of course, you're only going to pass the challenge when you have done both. I would love to hear in the comments if you were going to take on this challenge, and if so, how you got on. So please leave me a message down there. I love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this lesson, then I do have a free hour-long lesson for beginners that is linked in the description. It is going to go over pronunciation, understanding real-life Portuguese, as well as some of the most essential grammar that you need. So you can head to the description and register. It will also tell you all about how to apply for my beginners program. I will be back soon with more tips and tutorials to improve your confidence and conversation skills in Portuguese, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a thing. Ciao for now.